Good afternoon, everyone. What we discussed in the last class. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anybody's there? Only one girl is attending class. Out of 27. Anybody is there other than Preeti?
Yes.
So what we discussed in the last class, we discussed about design models. What are the different, when you design a model, we are designing different elements. We are designing data elements, we are designing architectural elements, we are designing interface elements, component level elements, and deployment level elements. So designing is not a single step process. We are doing multiple elements and we are creating multiple designs to show to represent different perspectives. So what is the need of these many elements design? To design this part actually already completed in the last class. Just I'm trying to recollect. Design data design elements means we are designing the data part. What is data part? Structure. How to represent the data structure that we are designing in data design elements. This is a high level abstraction. When it comes to architectural design elements, what we are designing, the overview of that system is designing. Yesterday, I explained through an example like a floor plan of the house. Then next is interface design. Interface design actually different interfaces are module. Interface means a system containing different modules or components and how they are interacting each other. That is there in the interface design. And one more interface also, outside world. Outside world is a system, how the system is interacting with the user. So, and one more interface is there, like when a system is working as a part of network. So it's interacting with another machine. External interfaces are there, internal interfaces are there, and user interface is there. So these elements we are designing during the interface design time. Okay, when you consider the user interface design, you have to consider its aesthetic elements, ergonomic elements, and technical elements. Suppose when you are creating a graphical user interface, it should be aesthetically, you should be happy with it, and technically good quality should be there. Means it should be perfect and aesthetically beautiful. Easy to use. That is the aesthetic elements. And ergonomic elements means some icons. Maybe you are not familiar with some icons, some shortcut methods. So if you click on that help link, means help symbol, you will get the information. So that is a part of ergonomic element. So when you design a user interface, you have to think all this parts, all these areas. Aesthetic elements you should consider technically. Is it working? Main is technical. The remaining things also you need to consider ergonomic and aesthetic part also you need to consider. For example, here this is a simple UML diagram for control panel. Here, this control panel is interacting with outside world. Outside world means a user interacting with the user through the keypad. So keypad is considered as an interface. And when it comes to component level diagram means inside the component, inside a module, how it is, how the internal details. It's like a data structure, algorithm designing, all comes under functions also. Functions and data structure, that's a part of a particular module. So those designing is comes under component level designing. The next is deployment level means how these hardware things are interrelated to each other. And inside a hardware elements, we have both software and hardware components are there. That is embedded in the hardware software things. Software like here control. This is the here considering 3 nodes: control panel, CPU server, and personal computer. All are hardware things. So the remaining security, access rights, management, communication are the some software related things that is embedded in the hardware. But we are explaining, we are designing physical computing environment which supports the software during this designing, deployment level design. So we should focus that area when you create a deployment level design. So these are the different that explained in the previous class. Data design, architectural design, interface design, components level design, and deployment level design. What we have to concentrate, or which area you need to concentrate on each and every model. Next is architecture design. When it comes to an architectural design, architecture, what do you mean by an architecture? This is the definition for architecture: is the structure of the system which comprise software components, the externally visible property of those components, and the relationships among them. Okay, if you are explaining these elements, you can call it as an architecture. An architecture is the structure of a system. Simply, you can say it's a structure of a system. It contains different software components, and all the software components, its properties and the relationships, all we need to design during the we have to explain, we have to include in the architecture design. So who done this database architecture means database designer has to do, otherwise system architect has to do the design. Then the work product is obviously a data architecture and program architecture. It is not a computing, means executable code. It's not an executable code, it's an architecture itself. So that is the work product. So software component. What do you mean by software component? It contains simple program module or object-oriented class are considered as a component. So main thing is architecture is not an operational software. It is It represents the structure or structures and the interrelationships between the components and its interrelationship between each other. Next, so why the software architecture is important? Why you are going for software architecture? Software architecture is very close in terms of concept, very close to building architecture. What is building architecture is? When you're going to construct a building, before going to construct the actual building, you are doing some designing. First, you have to go for planning. Based on the planning, you're doing some designing and architecture design. What is designing? Designing of models you can prepare. Means before you are going to actually implement it, you can create a prototype. How can you create this prototype? Create a prototype model. Actually, the input of this prototype is different models. First, you should go for multiple models. Each and every model should represent multiple viewpoints. And these models are the input for this prototype model. So the prototype model, in prototype model, you can include the architectural elements also. Why you are going for architectural element? The architecture focus early design decisions. It contains design decisions. And it composes more intellectually graspable model. Model is always representing the actual one. It's not the actual code, but it is a representation which contains all intellectual elements, and it will help you to understand the system. Okay. And another positive thing is, if you want to modify, if you want to maintain the system, this architecture will be helpful. The model help you to identify how the system is structured, structure of that particular system you will understand, and how the components are working together and the relationships are. So if you make any change on one part, whether it will affect the other modules, that you can identify from the module and the relationships that we explain, that we are designing in the architecture. So it will be helpful in the future modifications, and at the same time it is helpful for the stakeholder communication. Is. So this is the importance of architecture. The next part is agility and architecture. Do you understand what is architecture is? When you compare the software architecture with the building architecture, what is the architecture of a building? Is okay, architecture of your house. What do you mean? First, you will go for a plan, right? In the planning time, you are designing where the it's actually planning. We are planning the budget. We are planning the time to implement your system. Means your system, when it comes to a building, the building is a system. So how much time you take, how much money you need, then you are going for a model preparation. Model preparation, actually nowadays 3D models are preparing using softwares. But when it comes to a huge building, this model construction generally we are doing, it's a prototype model, a blueprint that we are preparing, not only using the hard means using the tools. We can before we used to prepare the visible, we are creating the models before going to start the actual one. Because if you want to do some modifications in the constructed building, or when you are maintaining it, or when you do some additions in some modifications, then if you look at this model, this building is very much big. You could not explain to someone else, even the developers or the engineers, to all the details. So if there is a model, you can explain through that model. So model is generally we are using for communication and for better understandability. So it's the same way. So when it's in the context of software also, if you want further modifications in future, maintenance of the software, this models will be helpful. So who done this? A database engineer or system architect. So database designer actually designing the database, and system architect generally design the hardware system. So next point is agility and architecture. How many of you are listening the class? Total silence. That means only one student is responding. Only one. Now I'm getting some response, but the remaining people did not listen. That's why they did not respond. Why the students are not interested in studies? When this online classes started at the time, I think most of the students were interested to experiment a new platform. But after 1.5 years, their attitude is completely changed. At least some students were interested before. But now every faculty is complaining the same thing. The students' response is not there. Everyone is disappointed. What happened? Still, I got 10 out of 37 students' response. The remaining 27 students are not there. They are not seeing the screens, computer screen. That's why they are not responding. Otherwise, they will respond at least yes or no. I think some students are playing games in mobile phones. Meanwhile, they are checking the computer screen. Yes, got a Paul, immediately answer. Read the question, immediately answer that. That's why I'm conducting poll, Generally I'm asking questions, but I'm getting one of those two students are listening what I'm saying. Then only they can reply. The remaining students are, if I launch one poll, they will respond because they're not listening the class. Maybe you kept your system in mute. But on screen, okay, when Paul came, immediately they responded. This is happening. Some students respond after 5 minutes, but they didn't even notice what is there on the screen for the past 5 minutes. Some students, they are not in that room, but from the other room, they so something is there in my screen. Okay, when Paul is there, they even respond. This is the thing happening. Now I got 18 responses. This is what I said. I got 18 response. So 18, immediately I got 3 to 4 reply. Because those students were there in front of the system, they immediately noticed the poll. The many students came just now. They noticed the poll now. So if I wait for 5 to 10 minutes, everyone will. This is the scenario, everyday scenario. I got 20 response. And one more thing, B11, who is the second batch? No, B11 first batch for UML project. This week, B9 students will present. From B11, the next week presentation, B11 first batch. 1 to 10. B11, 1 to 10. If I'm not getting any response, response. Okay, then the next class, this week point of sale present from B9 students. Next class by B11 1. Okay. Online shopping. Online shopping, you know very well what is it, and no need to explain. You are doing, I think almost everyone use the platform, either Snapdeal, Flipkart, or Amazon. So based on that concepts, you have to draw all those 9 diagrams. So next in the next class B9 will present, and after that B11 1 to 10 students will present. Can you hear me? Most of the students are not attending class, so whatever I am saying in the class, they are not following. So I will post it in your group. Is B11 AMC? Abhishek, are you there? Abhishek, are you there? Mahalakshmi. Mahalakshmi is the CR, girl CR. Okay, okay. Mahalakshmi CR. Class CR is Abhishek, right? Okay. My question is, Abhishek, when we discussed about the project classification, project group, people said, okay, we will choose our classmates and we will create our own group and we'll send the report. But I didn't get any report till today. So what I'm planning to create my own group. I will tell you how many students will be there. We need 10 students because the years is a combined class. B9 students are with you. So 10 students in a batch. So first 1 to 10, there is no need to create any group. I will tell you first 1 to 10 is the first batch. Okay, those people has to prepare. I'm not sure whether anybody from that group 1 to 10 is present now. So I'm telling Abhishek, the class here. You can inform any students if you know personally from 1 to 10. You can inform them. They may not be here now. So prepare for the online shop. So what they have to do, they should prepare a slide. Slide in which all these things comes under the under continuous evaluation. Continuous evaluation to check your performance continuously. How can we check your performance continuously? We have to assign some work and you should finish the work. So this is the first work. I can't provide everyone these works. So you have to create one group, and every group I will give one presentation. Present their content, present the project. That is your work. So next class, online shopping should be present by team 1, first batch. Okay, first batch means B11 first 10 students. First 10 students, maybe some people are not there. That's why I'm saying first 10 students. Create a group with first 10 students. Maybe some are permanent absentees. You can avoid. Total 10 students will be there. Because total we have 111 students are there for both this B11, B9 batch, combined class. So 10 students should present in this in a day. Okay. So your project is online shopping. Online shopping, first you have to give a brief introduction on what is online shopping is. Then the remaining 9 diagrams you have to present in 9 PPT presentation. But PPT presentation means you should draw those diagrams in using star UML, and the way you submit it in the same way, either PDF or okay, in PPT means it's images too. Okay, create the image and project present. That's it. Is it clear? Should not copy something from the net. You do your own UML diagrams using star UML and take an image and explain what it is. You should explain. I will be with you. I will join with you. It's not a complete presentation. It's a group. It's a discussion. Like if I won't be satisfied with your presentation, I will ask you to make some changes if it's needed. So it's not a pure presentation form, but it's a group discussion like thing. So no need to think like generally if you ask to present something, assign some work in a group, only the 1 or 2 members will be the yes.
Ma'am, can we make our own groups within our class?
That that opportunity I gave you before, but no one done that. It's already 2 weeks had gone, but I didn't get any response from anyone.
Ma'am, we'll do it now, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
We'll decide now. We'll just talk and we'll
Right
decide.
now, ma'am. Within 10 minutes.
We'll let you know the groups by like 5:15 maybe.
Yeah, yes,
And
ma'am.
we'll start.
And then post in your WhatsApp group.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Create and post in WhatsApp group. This one I already suggested 2 weeks back, but I didn't get any response. Even single batch students intimate. So that's why I thought it's better to go from my side.
But we'll make sure that we'll create our groups by 5:15, ma'am.
Then it's okay. Then you have to create and post in the WhatsApp group is there.
Yes, ma'am.
In that you send the students list.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Every group has to send me.
Like it needs to have 10 members, ma'am, per group.
Yeah, each group contains 10 members.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
The next topic is different architectural styles. Okay, before coming to architectural style, there is one topic. Agility in architecture. Okay, agility in architecture. Told you what is an agile system, right? Agile methodology. It is not system. Prescriptive methodologies, actually we discussed all the methodologies which we discussed under prescriptive methodologies only, like waterfall models, a traditional model, prototype, incremental, evolutionary models, concurrent models. All models comes under prescriptive models or software development life cycle, whatever we learn, all are comes under prescriptive. When it comes to agile methodology, agility means changing. Changing means what is changing? What is the changing factor? The requirements, user requirement. So based on the user requirements in prescriptive models, okay, except waterfall model, all other models accept change in requirement to some extent, not fully. We are not ready to accept all user requirement change in the user requirements at any time. We are not at all. But when it comes to agile methodology, we should be ready to accept any change in requirements till end of the product. Even in the late stage of development, also you should be ready to some extent. But this one is very challenging. But nowadays, for complex project and the time period is more, agile methodology is the best method which used by almost all the companies, because that much changes are happening in user requirements. Maybe it's due to market reasons, due to technical reasons, due to other challenges are there. Maybe due to multiple reasons, this is happening, change in the requirement. So how to accept those changes? Then we have different agile methodologies are there. Scrum methodology is there, XP is there, Kanban is there, FDD is there, many methodologies are there. So when it comes to agile architecture represents agility in architecture. What is agility in architecture? Generally, for all prescriptive models or traditional methodologies, we create one architecture from the requirements initially before you start the coding. After that, you are not ready to make much changes in that architecture. Architecture designing, you have to change. Slight modifications are acceptable, but otherwise you're not ready to make huge changes. But when it comes to agile architecture, you should be ready to change. That means how enterprise system software architectures apply the architectural practice in agile software environment development. Agile software development, how can you use this methodology? Means you should be ready to change. The difference between traditional software architecture and agile method along the axis of adaptation. So adaptation is more in agile methodology. So leaving architectural decisions until last possible moment. Are you understand? Leaving architectural decisions. Okay, architectures are not fixed thing in agile environment. Architectures always leave to modify till the last possible moment, and versus anticipation. Anticipation is there in traditional methodology. Means we are planning in advance. Once you plan an architecture, we create an architecture, you won't make much changes. So 6 forces that affect the architecture, agile architecture is, one is requirement instability. It's very challenging. It's not easy. One is requirement instability. There is no stability in the requirement. So that is one of the factors. And technical risk is more. Then early value, team culture, customer agility, experience are the main factors which affect the agile architecture. Agile architecture is possible, but it will be affected by these forces: the requirement instability, technical risk, early value, team culture, customer agility, and experience. So this is an agile model-driven development life cycle for software project. You could see here in the first iteration. So many iterations are there. Iteration 0, iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration to end till the development is complete. So iteration 0 is envisioning, means your that planning phase. At the time, you can identify the higher level scope and identify initial requirement stack and identify an architectural vision. So that is happening in the iteration 0 time. You are not even started your development, but once you start the development, it comes counted as iteration 1. So at the time, this is first iteration, this is second iteration, third iteration, the same process are same. Iteration modeling happening in early hours and model storming, and these are the 3 process, and reviews are optional. And what is there in these 3 phases? Modeling is part of iteration planning effort. need to model enough to give good estimates, and need to plan the work for the iteration. So this is happening in the iteration modeling phase. Actually, we are planning the iteration and modeling the iteration. The framework activities are same, whether it is in agile methodology, agile or normal traditional methodology. The 5 framework activities are same. What is it? Communication, planning, analysis and design, then implementation and deployment are common. But here, when it comes to an iterative environment, we are doing it n times. Multiple times we are doing the modeling, planning, testing, developing. So here, work through specific issues on JIT manner, just in time manner. That is, just in time means, suppose if you experience a problem, you have to do that modeling or architecture or coding just for that moment, and after that you can throw it. So if some specific issues comes, you have to follow the JET manner. And stakeholders should actively participate, and requirement evolve throughout the project. At any time it will change, and model is just enough for now. You can always come back later. Model, when you create, you always think this is only for present. At present moment, we are creating models, but we don't know this will be useful for the next moment. Definitely, the same model you can't change in the requirement. Develop working software via test-first approach, details captured in the form of executable specifications. So whatever you created, it should be testable. So whether it is model, architecture, or the shell code, it should be testable. So this is the agile model-driven development life cycle for a software project. This life cycle means from starting to, means from the creation to the last moment. Okay, then. Okay, any doubt? Any doubt? Anybody is there? Some people, meanwhile, some people join and they are leaving without any intimation. Some students, initially when I started, it was around 27, then become for 38 or 45, and again now it's 32. Those people simply join and they are in between. What's happening there? Okay, anyway, we'll see you in the next class. Listen your class. Nothing to say. I can't compel you, right? I can't compel you, but I think you are matured enough to understand the value of classes. Okay.